Hello there, Talkin' Fight fans. Joining us once again, Neil the Deal on his show, Neil the Deal. And tonight we've got Willie Pep lined up. Am I right?
That's correct, Graham. How are you, buddy? Nice to see you today. Everything's going well. A little chilly up here. We're trying to stay warm, right?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, it's getting a little colder out there each night. So, but the ice fishing's coming up. We're gonna get some fresh fish. So that's the good part about winter. You know what I mean? Out here in the North country, guys. We the North up here, right? So, anyways, guys, we're gonna talk like Graham was saying. I want to thank you. We're gonna talk about a guy named Willie Pep tonight, just to let you know. And I wanted to say thanks again for all the likes and the shares and the comments, as we always do in the subscriptions. Seems like, a bunch of every day we get a little closer to many more fans, many more people, many more Talkin' Fight people. And I've been watching all the other shows, like I'm sure you guys are. And boy, are we bringing in some good guests, and the other hosts are doing a fantastic job. So I'm really happy about being involved with these people. And I'm glad that you're able to come out and check us out. So thanks again for everything. So Graham, we're going to talk about Willie Pep.
Awesome.
Now, Willie Pep was a guy that my father used to talk about. I never really knew who he was because he was way before my era, but he was in my father's era. And my dad used to watch the occasional fight here and there, but we'd talk about it and stuff because he'd be interested in what I was doing. And he'd ask me, "Hey, you ever seen this guy named Willie Pep?" I'd say to him, "Well, I've heard of him, but I don't really know him." So I started looking into his fights because he's older than I wasn't alive when he was fighting, because he retired, basically. Checked out a bunch of his older fights, guys, and like this guy was amazing. So we're gonna talk about him, and I learned a lot about Willie actually. So I was pretty happy about it, to be honest with you. So he had a nickname. He used to go out as the Willow Wisp, Willow the Wisp or something, Graham. WISP, Willow the Wisp was his nickname. And he was born. He's of Italian descent, and he was born Guglielmo Papaleo. So he changed his name when he came to America with his parents. I guess that just made it a little easier. Just, say his name, I guess. I'm having a hard time. I'm sure everybody else would too. So he was born on September 19th, 1922 in Middletown, Connecticut. All right. So I guess his parents emigrated to the United States and then he was born. I guess that's how that worked. But they're from it. His parents were Italian descent. His career spanned 26 years, Graham. Wow. I knew he was a very longevity type of guy. I know he had a lot of fights. I mean, I've seen a bunch of stuff on him. They've had some boxing specials on him because he's a real special boxer, this Willie Pep, of the era. You know what I mean? So his career was 1942 to 1968. 26 years. This is some amazing stats about this guy, Graham. And I wonder if I'd like to find this out, if we can do a little research. Or guys, if you guys out there in Neil the Deal land are my fans and the Talkin' Fight people, if you guys know anything about this, please make a comment and let us know. Now, I never really thought about it, but this guy, the individual Willie Pep, he totaled 1,956 rounds of boxing, actual rounds in his career, like almost 2,000 rounds. So that's a question for, like, say, a guy like Ray Bola, Big Ray. Does anybody fight 2,000 actual rounds or something like that? Is crazy. So Graham, again, and he did it. His total fights were 241 fights. Crazy.
That is incredible. Are you saying?
So yeah, I'm just curious. Does anybody have an answer to who has fought the most rounds out of any fighter in the history of boxing? I would be surprised if there's somebody who's got rounds than him. But anyways, he was fantastic for great speed, finesse, and his elusiveness was amazing within the ring. He was very, very elusive. And like I said, he had speed, he had punching power, he had finesse. He's a very slick fighter, you know what I mean? And he had the experience. Graham, after you have hundreds of fights, right? Can you imagine the experience you're going to gain from those hundreds of fights? Like, he probably knows every trick in the book. You know what I mean? Like, there's tricks and stuff. Every trick in the book. Every fighter will tell you. Ask any of them. They got their own little tricks and stuff of that sort. So let's go into his amateur career now, guys, just to let you know what he was doing when he's younger. He started in 1937 when he was 15 years old. In 1938, he fought a guy named Sugar Ray Robinson.
Wow.
At 16 years old.
Wow.
So Willie was 105 pounds because he's a featherweight. Speaking of which, he's a featherweight, guys. And which is a small guy, 105 pounds. At the time, Sugar Ray Robinson was 130 pounds. So Robinson had 25 pounds on him. And they fought in a poultry feed attic in the middle of nowhere. Like literally in Connecticut, in a feed farm. So anyways, Willie lost the fight because Robinson was just a little bigger. The funny part about it was Willie afterwards stated that he didn't even know who Sugar Ray Robinson was. Like he didn't know who he was actually fighting. But then what happened was when he got into the fight, apparently, which he says, I couldn't believe it. This guy was all over me. Like instantly, he was just all over Willie, and he was like overwhelmed, and he's just a kid. So he was like, whoa, like who is this guy? I'm actually like I guess they never really told him who he was actually fighting that time. You know, he's like, oh, well, we're bringing in this guy. We're doing it in a poultry farm. Don't worry about the chickens and stuff or anything, right? But we'll just make up this little ring, and you guys can go at it with Sugar Ray Robinson, best middleweight in the history of boxing. So I don't understand. This is what he did, but so anyways, he did that kind of stuff. Pro totals again, 241 fights, Graham, 229 wins. 11 losses out of 241 fights.
Wow.
Unbelievable. One draw. He had 65 KOs. All right. So he didn't have a lot of power, but this was the interesting thing that I noticed was he had 164 wins by decision.
Wow.
So that means he went the distance, Graham. So that means that's how he got to that 1,956 in the ring rounds. Like who has 164 decisions? There's another one. These stats are over the top. I had no idea really that he was that. You know, I've watched probably 10 of his fights, 15, but I was like totally impressed. So he turned pro in 1940. Hold on, here goes those pop-ups again, guys. We'll just get rid of these things. There you go. Bye-bye. In 1942, Graham, so he turned pro in 40. By 42, he was 41-0. So in 2 years, he fought 41 times in 2 years. So that's 20 fights a year. It's basically 2 fights a month, basically.
Yeah.
So he was fighting every 2 weeks. So apparently he did that because his father, they found out that on Friday nights or something in Connecticut was a different state back then. You could actually win money as an amateur back then, apparently. And that in Massachusetts or something were some of the only states where boxers that were amateurs could win a prize purse, which was like, Graham, $15 or something, right? You win the fight, you win $15. But his dad was telling him, get out there and win the $15. You don't have money, kid, right? So he came back with a bunch of wins, apparently, and then his dad goes, oh, well, you better start doing Tuesdays and Fridays. You know what I mean? Like something my dad would say, like, right? So he ended up doing that. And so in 19, he was, so by the end of 42, he was 52-0. He won 10 more fights. Like, it's just ridiculous numbers. Like, he's fighting like every 10 days or something. And so in 42, he won his first world title, the featherweight title, world championship title. He won it. 1943, we're just going to go through a little bit to give you some kind of a scenario of what this guy was doing in those days. So in 1943, he won 6 bouts, made him 62-0. He had his first loss in 1943, so he was 62-1, right? Then he went and won 16 fights straight in 44. In 45, he won 7 out of 8 fights that he had that year. Then in 46, he had 18 fights. He won them all in 46. In 47, he had 10. He won them all. In 48, he had 15 bouts. He won 14, lost 1. 49, he was having this battle with a guy named Sandy Sadler. So in 49, he lost the title to Sadler the first time he lost his title, but he had 4 fights against Sadler. We're going to talk about this Sandy Sadler guy because apparently these guys didn't like each other, like at all. And they fought 4 times. So He lost the title. Then the next year he retained the title. He beat him. You know what I mean, Graham? Got the title back. And then in 51, they had the third fight, apparently, and Sadler won. So he got the title back, right, off Pep. But the fight was really crazy. So I watched that fight. So that was the one, guys, I watched was the 1951 Willie Pep, Sandy Sadler fight. And these guys, it was crazy. They were eye gouging, okay, healing each other, tripping. I was watching it, thumbing each other in the eyes on purpose. It was really bad. Like they were trying to other literally, and the ref was letting it go. And after the fight, they were both bleeding profusely from all kinds of wounds. And Pep ended up in that he had such a bad cut over his right eye. Like they were headbutting each other on purpose. And it was just going on and on and on. And they threw the towel in like the 8th or 9th round because there was just too many cuts, too much blood. His eye, Buddy poked him so hard in his eye, the blood filled up in his eyeball, and he actually couldn't see out of one eye. And the pain from the blood, he was saying in his autobiography, was excruciating. So he couldn't actually do anything because the pain in his brain was from the blood, the pressure. He said, "I gotta throw in the towel on this one." And so, anyways, in 52. He won 12 fights. He won them all. 53, 11 fights, won them all. 57, had a 17-win undefeated streak in 57. 19, all the way up to 60. And then basically around 60, he fought for basically 5 years. He retired a bit, came back. But he ended up going 43-5 or something in his last 5 years.
Wow.
And he was still I guess this is like 241 fights. Like, it's unbelievable. So he was named 1948. He was Ring Magazine Fighter of the Year. And Bert Sugar, we always talk about the Sugar Man. He used to do commentary for. He was a cool guy. So he named him the third best fighter of all time, Bert Sugar, and he knows his stuff. Bert Sugar knows what he's talking about. In 2014, he was voted the greatest featherweight of all time by the Houston Boxing Hall of Fame, and that's an interesting thing because I've never heard of this. You pro guys out there, you'll probably know about this, but I didn't know this even existed. It's the Hall of Fame there in Houston is composed totally of current boxers and former boxers, and they vote on the Hall of Fame people. So you know what I mean? I guess it's just within Texas or just within Houston. I'm not too sure, but they basically they thought he was he was able to be voted in, which is great. I mean, I don't know. We're going to try to find out about this 1,958 round thing. And like this is ridiculous stuff. So he was a great fighter. He obviously, he's up there probably in the top 10 or 15 of all time. That's why my dad used to talk about him. Hey, Graham, because my dad never cared, right, about that kind of stuff. He always thought they were overpaid and, just overpaid. He didn't like it. So basically, once the hockey players made $1 million, he just turned off the sports. That was it for him. So we'll go over the notable fights that Pep had. The ones that I watched again was the Sadler fights. Okay, that 51 fight, Pep and Sadler. He did fight him 4 times. I think they ended up 2-2. You know what I mean, Graham? There was a 2-2. Like it was a win-loss type of thing. Then another one that he had a really good fight I watched was Willie Pep versus Sal Bartolo. That's Sal Bartolo. That was in 52. And then he fought a guy earlier on, I think it was around 50. A really good fight, Pep versus Chalky Wright. Chalky. Who names their kid Chalky? Like, right? I don't know. Anyways, Chalky Wright. I'm going to look him up.
As opposed to Chucky.
Opposed to Chucky or something, right? My dad always used to laugh. Sorry to talk about my dad, but he's a cool guy.
Yeah.
He couldn't understand how you could call your kid a name like Plexico. He couldn't understand that. He'd say, who would call their son Plexico? Like, where do they come up with these names? But he was like 80 some odd years old, so he didn't understand. So anyways, they do have interesting names. Chalky Wright, everybody has their little name. And I'm Neil the Deal. There you go. I got my own name. So thanks for coming out, guys. Graham, we talked about Willie Pep, one of the best of all time. Again, guys, for the likes, the shares, the subscriptions, all the stuff you guys have been doing. It's been fantastic. Every night I'm loving it. So keep them coming. Keep them coming, and we'll keep them coming. You know what I mean? So if you're in the South, congratulations. I wish I was hanging out with you. But we're in the North here, and we're freezing our offs. Our cherries. You know what I'm saying? Wow. This place is cold. So anyways, make sure you bundle up and stay warm and stay by the fire, and that's it. Just hang out and get some hot chocolate and hang out with the kids or something. All right. So we'll see you tomorrow night, guys. Thanks for coming out. See you soon. Graham, thanks a lot. We'll see you again, brother.
Perfect show. Thank you.